Hey everyone, how's it going? Hey David, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Ornella?
Good.
Netherlands, Kentucky, people all over the world.
Hey folks, it's good to see everyone. So yeah, David, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone, I'm David. I'm an intern here at Replit currently. I'm co-hosting with Ornella for this event. Super psyched about it. I'll mostly be handling like the moderation stuff and tasks and handling questions and things like that. So definitely ask me any specific questions if you have any questions you have to ask Ornella. And yeah,
Yeah, so if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to put them in the Q&A. The structure of this session, which is basics for educators, getting started with Replit. I will show a quick 5-minute video that I put together that kind of goes through the essentials of Replit as well as Teams for Education. And then we will do some live coding together. And then at the end, we'll save a lot of time for questions. So, I can share my screen, go in depth, and answer all of your questions. So let's get started. I will share my screen and pop on the video. Hi everyone, I'm Ornella Altunian and I'm a developer advocate here at Replit. And today I'll be walking you through how to get started using Replit. In this session, we'll cover all of the basics that educators need to get their classrooms up and running. Before I show you anything, let me tell you a little bit about Replit. It's a social browser-based IDE or integrated development environment where we can start and host coding projects with no setup time or downloads. You just go to replit.com and boom, magic. Students can use it from any device, including phones or tablets, and teachers won't have to set anything up or update any software. Let's start off by heading to replit.com and creating a new REPL. When you create a REPL, you'll see hundreds of templates set up and ready to go, and any language you might be teaching. You'll be able to find exactly what you need for your class here. Let's choose the P5JS template today. This is the workspace where we have the file tree, text editor, console, shell, and preview pane. Because we used a template, this REPL comes with a README that explains what's going on and some starter code. The Run button up here runs the code, and you'll see it pop up in the web view. In the sidebar over on the left, we have other useful tools like the debugger, package manager, and unit testing. One of the coolest things you can do on Replit is collaborate with others. It's basically like Google Docs for code. If you select Invite, you can add people to your REPL. You can even leave a comment for your peer programming buddy, asking them to help you figure out what this line means. You can also observe and see where other people are in your REPL and use the chat window. And when you're done building your REPL, you can share it with the world using the publish flow. These REPLs will show up in our community feed. So what's the best way to use this in your classrooms? We have a special free product called Teams for Education that takes the magic of Replit and puts it within a framework that is student and classroom friendly. Let's head over to Teams and I'll go into my Teams EDU organization so I can show you what's going on there. We're going to create a new team project, which is starter code that students can easily fork. Only the student or assigned group of students are able to see their project to protect academic integrity, and all the REPLs here are automatically private. So I'm going to give it a quick title here, a description, choose the language and the due date, and now your students have everything they need to complete their assignment. This is where you can pop in your starter code or whatever you want your students to see when they open the assignment. When you go to add in your lessons, the instructions for the students, 2 files will automatically be created, Markdown files for both lesson plans and instructions. When a student opens up their assignment, they'll see the starter code as well as the instructions in a nice clean window. Just as an aside, everything here will also autosave, so you'll never lose a line of code. As a reminder, everything I showed you in Replit is also available in Teams for Education. So you can use version control, including GitHub integration, unit testing, if you just don't feel like grading assignments anymore, and the debugger. When you're ready to send this over to your classes, just hit Publish Project. And if you ever run out of your own lesson plan ideas, you can use our Curriculum Hub to import an existing lesson right into your project. So if I go back over to Teams for Education, we can see all of the options we have for the project. You can port it over to Google Classroom, grab the link for your students, and even embed it in another web page. You can also create a solution, and when you update the solution, you can even select when you'd like your students to be able to access it. So we have this little sample project. How do we share it with our students? If you select Manage Team Members, you can invite folks who already have a Replit account. But the easiest way to share a project with anyone is to use the invite link. For complete privacy of your students, you can tick this box and we won't see any of their names or emails. You can also add in a CSV file of your students or use Google Classroom. Now I want to show you how all of this looks from the student perspective. We can see the project I just made, so I'll go ahead and start it. I can immediately get to work since I see my instructions. I can run the code immediately and see the output, as well as run unit tests. If I have an issue with my code, I can ask my teacher for help using the chat feature or using threads to ask a question about a particular line. If I hop back to the teacher view, I can see which students are working on their submissions and the status of each. The last thing I want to show you is the project's overview pane, where you can see the status of each student's projects. And that's it. If you need help setting up a project, adding students, or any step along the way, we have a bunch of documentation available for you at replit.com/edu-docs. Cool. So I hope that was a good little introduction to Replit and also Teams for Education. I wanted to give everyone a chance to explore Replit together. So David's going to share a join link, and we're all going to hop into a live coding session. So if you click the link in the chat, I'll meet you there, and I will just project also the REPL. So what you're looking at here is one of our templates. And I kind of explained this in the video, but templates are basically REPLs that come with a README that explains what to do, as well as some starter code. So this is a template that's specifically for HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, so beginner web development. If you want to hop into the HTML and write a little introduction of yourself, that would be awesome. And you can refresh, I'll refresh the web view and we can see everyone's introductions pop up live. And this is what I meant by where you can see where people are coding. So if you have multiplayer going on in a REPL, you can see everyone's cursors and their usernames, which I think is really fun. Let's see, I'll give it a minute. And then I'll refresh. Awesome. It's so fun to see everyone inside of Replit. And like I mentioned on the left here, we have all of these different really useful tools. So there's version control, package manager, unit tests. I also wanted to mention that something we have as part of the unit test support is input-output tests, which I know a lot of teachers might find useful. And so that's a really awesome tool that we have that also exists inside of Teams for Education as well. Cool. So now you can see all of the notes that you guys put in over here in the web view. And obviously you can also go to this link and it will be on a web page. So I'd love to open it up for questions. Oh, Audrey is asking, I missed the input output part you mentioned. Can you point it out again? Yeah, so let me show you it inside of Teams for Education, actually, because I think that might be a bit better. So we're in Teams for Education right now, and I can go to that assignment that I created inside of the demo. Where did I put it? So here's the assignment that I was showing you in the video. And so we're in the teacher perspective right now. And if you go to tests, you can choose a testing method. There's unit tests as well as input output tests. So if you wanted to do input output tests, you can just create them here. And then you can do a run on your starter code. And then this will also be accessible from the student perspective. So if there's input output tests or unit tests, they'll be able to actually run them on their code to check their work before they send it over to the teacher.
Awesome. I have a question here from Amber. When you use Teams, does it create a separate file for each student in their account so they can work on their own project without overriding a template file?
Yes, exactly. So to kind of set up the hierarchy here, an organization is like your school name, and then each name is a class set of students, and then each project is a lesson. So I can show it from the student perspective, what that would look like to see the assignment. Just give me a sec here. So here's what it looks like from the student perspective. If I'm on my team, which is my class, and I see all of my projects that are assigned to me, this is only accessible to me right now. We also have group projects. So this would just be my work. And then there's also a checkbox when you're making an assignment to decide if you want to make it a group project. And obviously those would be accessible to more than one student. Any other questions, David?
Yeah, I think we're getting some other ones in the chat. I think Amber just asked a follow-up question. They access that by clicking Teams from the left-hand menu.
Yes. So if I'm on the home page, I go to Teams, and then this would be my school, my class, and then these would be my projects that are assigned to me.
Awesome.
And then they can continue working here, and then when they're ready, they would just submit, and that would show up in your view.
Very cool. I think David asked kind of a clarifying question about Teams for Education. So he was wondering, are the features free? Because I think in the past it used to be a subscription service.
Yes, Teams for Education is completely free for all educators. We're really excited about that.
Awesome. That's all the questions we're getting right now. So I guess we have one question from Samantha. We've noticed a bit of lag as we're all making changes on the REPL. Is there an ideal number of concurrent coders on a single REPL?
So I don't know that there's an ideal number, but I think in classroom settings, it may be, you might need a little bit of patience if you're asking your entire class to hop into one REPL, I would say. But like if a group of people was like pair programming, or 3 people were pair programming, it works really, really nicely. I think it's just because we had like 35 people in one REPL that you were noticing that lag, but usually it's not noticeable. And obviously there's only like 2 or 3 cursors bopping around, so it's not as like distracting. But I think it's fun to have everyone in one REPL, so that's why we did that.
Absolutely.
Let's see what else. I think there's a Q&A.
Yeah, I've been checking Q&A. I think Vladimir just asked a question in the chat. Is it possible to upload one's own curriculum instead of the pre-made ones?
Sure. So I do think you have to do it one by one. We may be working on support for bulk uploading, but right now you would have to basically use the, I can just show it really quick, the lesson plan functionality. So I'll just create a new project really quick so you can see. Let's do Python. Test project. So this was what also the button I was talking about for whether you want it to be a group project or not. You can toggle that here. So if I create this, and you go to the lesson contents, you'd have to add your lesson plans in here. So you can add lesson plans and you can also add instructions. The lesson plans are for you and the instructions are for the student. Awesome. And I'll just share in the chat also a step-by-step guide for lesson planning or how to author lessons.
Awesome. And is there like any specific link that people should refer to for documentation on what we just did? I think we have a few questions in the chat about that.
Yes, so replit.com/edu docs. I just popped it in the chat. That will take you to the overall documentation page for all of the Teams for Education docs. I think there are some more questions in Q&A, David.
Yeah, I think we've gone through most of the questions in the Q&A, but I do see something in the chat from Allison. Is there a YouTube video that instructs students how to work on and submit a project?
To answer Tim's question, is there a role as student mentors? Yeah, so you can add TAs to your team kind of as in like an instructor role. So they would also have access to all of the assignments and like grading and stuff like that.
And I think Audrey had a question on grading. Can you set up deadlines for projects, and how does auto grade work?
Yeah, so when you create a project, you can set the due date here, and that will show up on the student end. And then for auto grading, let me just go in and submit something from the student perspective. So I just submitted that project that I was showing from the student perspective, this one here. And you can hop into their projects even if they're not submitted and just kind of see like what the status is. But basically here, I would be able to go to the tests. And if I had put in some tests here, I would be able to run all of them on whatever the code is that the student has in their REPL. So it's not an auto grader per se, but you can run unit tests or input-output tests on each REPL so that you don't have to like look at the code or figure it out yourself.
I think Steve had a question that's kind of related on that other people also had. Can the units within teams, I guess actually this is a little bit separate, can the units within teams be copied to other teams? In other words, can you copy a unit from one class to another class that they're also teaching?
That is a good question. Let me see.
I think David just said yes. That is
yeah, so there's the copy project button here. And you can copy it to another team.
Awesome. And I think Samantha had a question. When the due date on a project has elapsed, will students be able to access and submit the project, and it will be marked late, or will they be prevented from seeing the submitted or submitting the project?
That is a good question. I think it may be an option that you can set. David would know for sure, but I know that with solutions, for example, if you decide to create a solution for your project, you can select whether you want it to be available to them right after they submit or after everyone like after the due date has elapsed, or there's like a third option. But yeah, there should be a few different options.
Awesome. I think you already kind of answered this a little bit, but I think Allison wants to see again how to create a unit test.
Yeah, we can go ahead and make one together. So there's some advanced options for imports if you wanted to add them, and as well as a link to docs if you need more information on how this works. Advanced options here as well. And then you can add a test this way. So if I wanted to say like task 1, for example, and you can also add a failure message. And there's docs too, which I can show specifically for unit testing. And I'll drop the link to this in the chat as well.
Awesome. I think Anne had a question. Can students submit more than once? I'm guessing if they want to edit their existing submission.
So from the student perspective, let me just go back to that. You can resubmit using this button, which is the same as a submit button. So if I made a change here and I wanted to resubmit it, you can just click this and you'll submit again. And the admins are like on the teacher side, you would be notified that this was like a second submission.
Awesome.
Thank you. Someone asked if the recording will be available to share with others. It will be after the conference. I can also share the link to the YouTube video. It's or the video I shared earlier is just on YouTube, so I will share the link to that in the chat. And then I also see a question from Simon again around pricing. Just to reiterate, Teams for Education is free for everyone, no matter what size or level. So it doesn't matter if you're a university or a high school.
Awesome. And someone also asked, is there a code for the session? And yes, there is. I will be posting it in just a moment. CY also had a question. Are any of the projects/lessons Common Core aligned?
Common Core aligned. I'm assuming that's like a particular type of curriculum. Yeah, so I'm not sure of the answer to that, but we can check out the curriculum hub together and see what's available there. So this is what we have in the Curriculum Hub docs. You can also access this from the sidebar inside of Teams for Education. And I think some of them are like particular to like a university or something. For example, there's like Duke, or this is a particular class, I'm assuming. Let me just go out of the docs and into the actual hub. So this is what's available in the curriculum hub. I'm not sure if any of this is aligned to Common Core, but we are doing a curriculum jam as part of this conference. So if you wanted to make a curriculum that is aligned with Common Core, you're welcome to do that. And the best ones we will be adding to the Curriculum Hub. Cool. We've got 2 minutes left. If anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Oh, let me just pop in the link to the YouTube channel or the YouTube video.
At AAPC, medical coding students.
Sorry. There's a YouTube link as well if you want to rewatch it. Also, feel free to tweet at Replit or at me. My @ is ornella.com. I'll just type it in the chat too if you need any additional help while setting up.
Awesome. I think we also have a last minute question from Anne. If students are not in groups, can they still share their code with each other, and will I know if they do?
So in regular Replit, you can generate a join link for any REPL, but inside of Teams for Education, the join, like only the administrator, the teacher or the TA can create a join link. So only the teacher is able to access their code unless they're in a group, in which case everyone in the group will be able to access the code.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we're at time. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining. This was really fun, and I hope it was useful for everyone as they get started on their Teams for Education journey. And let us know if you need any more resources. We have everything available for you.
Definitely. Thanks so much, guys. And thanks to Ornella for hosting this talk and session. Great.
Would you just repost the code, please? I think some folks missed it.
Yeah. Let me repost that right now.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.